What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with this top 15 all-time professional basketball list when it comes to shooting guards. Just do a brief recap. At number 15, I had Tracy McGrady. At number 14, I had Vince Carter. At number 13, I have Klay Thompson. And if you've seen my prior list, I had him at number 8. And I think that was too high a placement in retrospect. Alright, I think I was probably projecting at the time. And this was, I can't remember when I actually did that list, but it might have been right at the time of the finals, 2019, or during that playoff run. And I think I was projecting more than anything else. But now in hindsight, even though I think Klay is a great player, I don't think he's a top 10 all-time shooting guard. I just don't see that. So he is going to be lower in my new ranking. But when I think of Klay Thompson, I think of a great competitor. I think of a clutch performer in big games. I'm not saying that he doesn't have his bad games, but oftentimes in big games, he'll either have a great game or even in the midst of a bad shooting game, when the team needs him to make a big shot, he often will make that big shot. For a stretch, he was one of the best two-way players in the NBA. Before the offense began to revolve more and more around Steph Curry, at one point it was him and Steph that were the Splash Brothers. Steph would give you 25, Klay would give you 22, but as the years progressed, the offense began to revolve more and more around Steph Curry, and Klay became more of a secondary player. And then over time, you had this rift between Steph Curry fans and how they always like to downplay Klay. It was just a bunch of dumb stuff going on with that team at times. But you can't take away what Klay has meant to that franchise. Without Klay, they wouldn't have won any championships. Steph Curry has never. People often say Michael Jordan never won a championship without Scottie Pippen. That's true. But Steph Curry has never won a championship without Klay Thompson. So, when you look at Klay Thompson, his accumulative numbers are not that impressive. And a lot of that has to do with injuries. He's scored 13,751 points in his career. That's not, especially high. He has 610 career steals, 1,627 career assists, 2,455 career rebounds. These are not what you would call excessively high numbers. However, he is one of the most prolific three-point shooters the game has ever seen. He's connected on 2,131 career threes, and he's a 41.6% career three-point shooter, one of the most accurate three-point shooters the game has ever seen. And when you look at his accomplishments, he is a 4-time NBA champion, a 6-time NBA All-Star, a 2-time All-NBA third-team player. He was on the All-Defensive second team back in the 2018-19 season. He was the 2016 three-point contest champion that year. He was on the All-NBA first team as far as rookie in 2011, 2012. And in college, he was a 2-time first-team All-Pac-10 player back in 2010 and 2011. I'm sorry if you hear some background noises. Someone in the home having a Madden tournament. He won Olympic gold in Rio de Janeiro back in 2016 as well. So the resume is more than enough for him to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, first ballot, that's another, that's another deal. But he was born in Los Angeles back in 1990. His father was none other than Klay Thompson, who probably is best remembered for his stint with the Lakers back in the 80s. Back in the 80s and maybe very early 1990s. His mother was a volleyball player in college for the University of Portland and University of San Francisco. His father, Klay Thompson, was the first overall pick in the 1978 NBA draft. When Klay Thompson was 2 years old, his family moved to Oregon, where his childhood friends one of his childhood friends was none other than Kevin Love. When Klay Thompson was 14, his family moved to Ladero Ranch, California, where he graduated from Santa Margarita Catholic High School. And in his junior season, he was named the All-Area second team and to the Orange County third team. As a senior, Thompson averaged 21 points per game and led SMCHS to a 30-5 record and Division III state championship appearance. All right. Of course, in college, Klay went to Washington State University. As a freshman, he started all 33 games and led his team in three-point field goal percentage and free throw percentage, and averaged 12.5 points per game. And Klay decided to go into the NBA draft after his junior season in 2011, and he was selected 11th overall by the Golden State Warriors. And there was speculation because the Warriors picked a guard that they would trade Monte Ellis, because you might remember at the time the guard tandem for the Warriors was a young Steph Curry and Monte Ellis, but that did not occur until later on the next season. And Warriors general manager Larry Riley, at the time, praised Thompson for his shooting ability and expressed confidence that Thomas would improve his defensive skills with new coach Mark Jackson, which ultimately he did. And, it took a while, but the combination of Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, the additions of Draymond Green, who else? Andre Iguodala when he got on the team, Harrison Barnes, all these guys, they turned the Warriors' fortunes around. I mean, ever since the Run TMC days, the Warriors had not really been anything. Not really. And for much of the 2000s, they sucked. They did have a little renaissance in 2007 with the I Believe team, whatever the hell they were called. We Believe team with Jason Richardson and Steven Jackson and those guys. But at the end of the day, this was the turnaround for the Warriors, and this was the beginning of the Warriors' semi-dynasty. All right? You saw the team improve in leaps and bounds, and then by the 2014-15 season, while Mark Jackson was no longer the head coach, it was Steve Kerr. They went from being a team that was roughly 500 to winning 67 games that year, and ultimately making it an improbable run to the finals. Because a lot of people thought that San Antonio was going to go back to the finals that year, but this was the Warriors' time. And the next year, they won an NBA record 73 games, and most people thought that they were going to win a championship, but they were thwarted in 7 games in the finals by the Cavaliers. The next 2 years, however, the Cavaliers would be no match for the Warriors after they acquired Kevin Love. But make no mistake about it, Klay Thompson was still instrumental for these guys in the playoffs. And they won back-to-back championships in 2017, 2018. 2018, 2019, I think what happened in hindsight with that Warriors team is that the wear and tear of playing so many games back to back to back, 82 game schedules, long playoff runs, started taking a toll on these guys. And that's when Kevin Durant suffered his real first significant career injury. I mean, he had an injury one of those years before in OKC, might have been 13, 14 or whatever. But this is the first, or 14, 15. But this was the first year that Kevin Durant faced a serious injury. And he had a lower calf injury. But then in the finals, after finally making an appearance for the first time since I think the first round, he tore his Achilles. And then fate would have it, Klay would suffer an ACL injury. I think he tore his ACL. And then unfortunately, while he was on the mend after surgery and rehabbing, he tore his Achilles, which put him back again. And Klay Thompson would ultimately miss 941 days from basketball, from the time that he suffered an injury in the finals to when he made his reappearance in basketball. I think it was in January of 2021. So January 2022, excuse me. Some 941 days. Now, there was some speculation that Klay was hurting the team last year. For much of the season, they didn't quite look the way they did prior to Klay's re-entry into the lineup. But they figured things out down the stretch of the season. And then they looked like a championship team again heading into the playoffs. And while Klay did not have a particularly great postseason run last year, he still did hit some big shots in some games, made some clutch free throws in others. But it was more the Steph Curry show. And ultimately they won their fourth championship in the modern era. And Klay won his fourth championship. So at the end of the day, I feel pretty secure putting Klay right here. Klay is a sharpshooter. Klay is not a guy that is the best at creating his own shot. In his prime, I never saw a guy as good as him being able to set himself up off of a feed and being able to get in position to shoot and score in his prime. Now, I don't think he's quite as good as he once was. Sometimes I think he struggles getting good looks at the basket compared to the Klay Thompson in the past. He's improving on the defensive end, but he's still not what he once was. He's not as accurate as he used to be from the mid-range. And he takes more three-point attempts, so that's why his overall field goal percentage the last couple of years have been down. But he's still giving you 21 to 22 points a game. He's having to take more shots to get his points, but that's to be expected for a player that's getting older. There's some speculation that maybe as he gets older, he may have to come off the bench. That's something that's going to be seen in the future. What's important right now is that the Warriors have to worry about what they're going to, how they're going to gel as a team and make some type of postseason run if they can. This is the first guy in the lineup, and he might be. I'm thinking, is this the only guy that is active? He may be the only guy that's active in my lineup. I gotta think about it. But anyway, number 13, I have Klay Thompson. Tell me what you guys think.